Welcome back, and what I've been doing with the BBCs is continuing to look at some Mahayana Buddhist slogans to tame the mind and awaken the heart. So the slogan I'm looking at today, each one of these is so challenging. This one says, "Don't make mistakes." What can we say? But I want to read the commentary on it because it's really, really important to understand what these mean. And then what I want to do is share with you an answer to a question in the SAFE course that ties to this, the Sravasti Abbey Friends Education course. One of the students that is in the course I'm facilitating, which is the level 1 course, wrote this just really beautiful piece on basically on doing the right thing. Is how I would update this is don't make mistakes, do the right thing. So, but first the classic commentary. Avoid 6 mistakes. They're kind of long, but we won't spend a whole lot of time, but I think they're very important to think about. First, do not endure patiently the suffering, get the wording here, do not endure patiently the suffering of subduing enemies, protecting friends, working to make money. These are all sufferings. It's like, don't endure those patiently, while at the same time not patiently enduring the difficulties of Dharma practice. To do this is mistaken patience. And I think how often we do this. I put my patience towards these worldly things, like, oh, it's just this way and it's got to go that way. But when it comes to Dharma practice, my patience goes, gone. So that's the first one. To want wealth, happiness, and comfort in this life, and to have no inclination to practice Dharma thoroughly, is mistaken inclination. So we're headed in the wrong way, inclined in the wrong direction. That's the second one. Third, to enjoy the taste of wealth and possessions and not to enjoy the taste of hearing, reflection, and meditation on Dharma is mistaken enjoyment. So you can see each one of these, the patience, the inclination, the enjoyment. We can have them on the correct side or the headed in the wrong direction. Now the fourth one, to have compassion for a person who is putting up with hardship in order to practice the Dharma, but not to have compassion for those who do evil or suffering is mistaken compassion. So we have to have even compassion. And sometimes we get stuck that way, like, oh, I have a lot of compassion for my Dharma friends, but ooh, that guy out there shooting a rifle off, he's just so wrong. So, yeah. To engage people who look to you to better their position in this life and not to engage them in Dharma is mistaken care. So someone comes to you with a worldly problem, it's great to listen to it, but try and give them some Dharma, or it's a mistaken care to just leave them kind of in their worldly whatever kind of mess. To take joy in other people's unhappiness and to take joy in the sufferings of your enemies, but not to take joy in virtue and happiness in nirvana or samsara is mistaken joy. So, not to be joyful that anyone else is unhappy, not to be joyful that anyone else is suffering. Take joy in virtue and happiness, whether it shows up in nirvana or samsara. Avoid these 6 mistakes completely. Fairly tall order, which is why I probably turned to this lovely piece that Jan wrote, and because he went into doing this very same kind of thing in such a gentle and intelligent way, and I just felt very inspired by what he wrote. So I'm going to read some parts of it. For some reason, this was after they did a section on ethical conduct. For some reason, I really liked reading and thinking about ethical conduct, I've only been studying Buddhism for about 2 years, but my understanding about what ethical conduct is and all the things it includes has really deepened. And as a result, my behavior has really changed. I came across a phrase, quote, "the bliss of blamelessness." And I just love that. This is a sense of coming away from, say, a family gathering without having gotten into it with certain people, or noticing I didn't jump on the bandwagon when the conversation drifted towards criticizing someone. I know these are little things, but they seem to confirm to me I'm on the right path. I've been in the habit of teasing people a lot and using humor to dispel my own tension. Now I've read in several places that teasing is just not a good idea. Even when people act like they're not hurt, sometimes they are. I really resisted that idea at first, and I thought defensively, that's ridiculous. Teasing is one of the ways I show my affection to people. And then I started watching my habit more closely. And I noticed that sometimes my teasing had a rather sharp edge to it, and other times it could be taken as though I was ridiculing someone. When I really saw that, it was easy to stop, or to be accurate, to at least make sure that I did it affectionately, in a very soft way, and in no way with a put down or a hidden agenda or any anger or resentment. Now if something like that slips out, I apologize. The thing I love about having these things come up in my attention is that I can correct them. I can stop. I may have been hurting people, mostly unintentionally, I hope, but once I see it more clearly, I see I really don't want to hurt others or do any form of these, but I never stopped to think about these that closely before. Then he says, we do these things, but afterwards there's a murky, uncomfortable feeling of something's not quite right. The more light that gets shined in these dark corners, the more weight seems to lift off me, because better understanding these things means I improve my behavior, I treat others better, and then I get to enjoy the bliss of blamelessness. Isn't that a great phrase? I mean, if you just do something right rather than wrong, and you just get that little lift, you know, and he's found this phrase for that, the bliss of blamelessness. And it comes for that moment instead of the heaviness of some vague distaste for what I just said or did. So I just really thought that he captured this really somewhat subtle thing that goes on in our minds when we, you know, we see what we could do and we could not make the mistake, but we go along with it and we feel that vague kind of versus, wow, I held the line there and I've got this joyful, blissful feeling out of it, whether it's small or big. So I want to thank Jan for sending that and saying we could use that. And also everybody, let's just keep supporting one another and keep going with the Dharma.